What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Urban Exegesis Studios. And I did a live recently where I was telling my BBoy story. And, sometimes in the excitement of telling your story, you misspeak, you put things in the wrong chronology. And I felt the need to come back and correct that today. And so today, we're going to continue talking about my B-boy story.
Welcome to Urban Exegesis Studios. I'm your host, Dr. Derrick Colon, and I'm excited to have you here. This is the place where hip-hop culture meets faith, history, and community. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. To stay connected and to unlock exclusive content, please join channel membership. You can also find us across social media. On Facebook at Urban Exegesis. On Instagram at Urban Exegesis Studios. And on TikTok at Urban Exegesis Studios. Thank you for tuning in. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey.
1975 is when I first see the dance. I see both Black and Puerto Rican kids doing the dance. In fact, it was the summer of 1975. One of the first people that I see do this dance is a kid named Rockhead in my school. But I also had some kids in my class who were also rocking on the floor. And again, this initial dance that we called breaking was really the basic stuff. It was really a top rock. It was really a helicopter into some basic footwork and a freeze. It was real elementary. As I, went into the summer of 75, I start seeing it, more and more on my block. Again, this is both Black and Puerto Rican kids who are doing this dance, who are engaging in this dance. Get back to school that same year, see more and more people doing the dance. In fact, there was a time where, I was playing Apache outside of my window on my block. And I remember bringing Apache to a class party for my class and, seeing kids in the class rocking out on the floor and doing this dance that we called breaking. Understand, I never heard the term B-boy. I only heard the term breaking. So I want to make that very, very clear. So I see this dance from the year 75 to 79. And in 1979, August of 1979 to be exact, I leave the Bronx and I move to upstate New York to a place called Rochester, New York. As I get to Rochester, nobody's doing this dance. In fact, I kind of forgot about the dance, right? But we fast forward to the year 1982 because it's this year that's a pivotal piece to the puzzle. 1982, I'm at this place called, I believe it was called the Carter Street Recreation Center, something like that. And I see this popper. There was a lot of great poppers that were in, Rochester. They were from the South. They were from Florida. They were popping, right? Dope poppers. So I see this popper and all of a sudden he hits the floor and starts to do these breaking moves. And as he goes to the floor, he makes this comment. This is a dance from New York called breaking. And I told him, I know what the dance is. I'm actually with a friend of mine at this recreation center. And my friend says, how do you know about that dance? I said, we used to do that in New York. So he asked me to, show him a little bit. So I did, again, the basic stuff that I remembered, right? This is 82. So I'm remembering stuff from the 70s. So it's just like a basic top rock, again, some footwork and a freeze. But that kind of put the bug back into me, but still not seeing anybody in Rochester doing this. Keep this in mind, from 79, when I first left, to 82, I was back and forth visiting family. Family was coming to visit me. This was happening all the time. In 1982, my sister visits us in Rochester. And of course, she brings her son, my nephew, Milton. So he starts talking to me, dropping names. He's talking about people like Crazy Legs. He's talking to me about people like Mr. Freeze and Frosty Freeze, and Rocksteady and the Zulu Nation. And he's talking to me about the chapters and the beads and all this stuff that's happening, as was our custom. In the same year, 82, we go back and we visit my sister in the Bronx. In her house, 2830 Sedgwick Avenue. And we go and we visit. My nephew pulls out a record and he said, I want you to listen to this record. And the record was Planet Rock. And I remembered him talking to me about the group called the Zulu Nation, because in the beginning of Planet Rock, it mentions the Zulu Nation, right? The same year, there's a party across the street. And in this party, it's a party for a preteen little girl, right? But there's DJs there. There's MCs there that I can remember, and they play Planet Rock. And we start to have a discussion about the roots of Planet Rock. By this time, I'm like 15 years old. And we start talking about how that comes from Trans Europe Express. And I'm in this conversation with my nephew and another dude, and the other kid, unbeknownst to me, was actually Chino Action from the New York City Breakers. And I believe he might have been with the Floor Masters at this time. In fact, I'm almost sure of it. But I didn't know who he was, right? Until later on. Well, I go back to Rochester. Now I'm starting to practice this dance more and more because I'm intrigued. Remember when I went back to 82, I went to this little party, Chino Action is there. I even think I saw some kids breaking in there. But anyway, I went back to Rochester and I'm practicing and I'm getting into it more and more. Around the end of 1982, in my house, the first time I see the video called Buffalo Gals. And I see breaking in it. I see graffiti in it. And it was at this time that I asked my mom, I said, I want to move back to New York. And so she tells me, we'll have a conversation. We'll talk to your sister. And what ended up happening was I was going to go back for the summer of 1983. Before that happens, I'm still practicing in my house. There's a couple of kids that are playing with it. And my nephew, my sister come back to visit before that summer. They come back to visit. And my nephew tells me about this movie that Rocksteady is going to be in called Flashdance. I had, I didn't know what it was, but he tells me about this movie. The movie was actually released in April of 1983. But I don't see the movie until after I get back from the Bronx after the summertime. The summertime comes, the summer of 83, 2830 Sedgwick Avenue. I'm right, little did I know, right? I'm right in the midst of a BBoy hub, right? Because all around that area were people like Chino Action, were people like Glide Master, with people like Powerful Pexter. I would see Little Lep from time to time. I would see Flip Rock from time to time. I made a brief connection with Fast Break. In fact, I asked Fast Break if he would teach me how to break. It never happened. We never really even connected again. But he said, yeah, sure. But, again, it never happened. This was the same year that there was a jam at Walton High School, 1983, the summer of 83, and it was a battle between the Throwdown 3 MCs and the Throwdown 4 MCs. And I went to this jam. Again, I saw Pexter there. I saw Chino Action there. There was a lot of Zulus there. Actually, the Throwdown 3 MCs, Kid Capri was part of that crew. And Paradise Gray, DJ Paradise. It was DJ Paradise and the Throwdown 4 MCs. And this is a crew that Microphone Prince was a part of. I was actually at that jam. And if you saw the Latin breakdown, you saw the clip that I put. That was actually from that jam. During this summer, I keep practicing. I'm seeing people doing this at the jam, so I'm practicing even more. There's a kid named Kenny that used to live on my block in Echo Place when I lived there that I really didn't recognize at first. And he was a karate, a karate dude. So he started to stretch me out. He started to teach me how to stretch, how to get flexible. And so, I was getting good. I was practicing all the time. Now I'm back in Rochester, back to school, and I'm practicing still, and I'm trying to get a crew going. Now, keep in mind, I'm still writing graffiti at this time. So I still go by the name of King Soul. I finally see Flashdance, and I see that part where Rocksteady is in the film. Now keep in mind, I had never seen Crazy Legs before, so I didn't know what he looked like. So now I see Flashdance, and it's at this time that I meet two people, Robert and Jose. And Robert and Jose, actually Robert, while I founded a crew called COB, the Come Off Brothers. Robert would be the president of the Come Off Brothers. I founded the crew. I wasn't in the crew that long because of a dispute, but eventually I did get back into the crew, and we were doing our thing. So the Come Off Brothers was a crew that I founded in Rochester. Eventually, Beat Street comes out, right? It's in June. And this is right before I'm about to go back to New York for the summer. So Beat Street comes out. We all go to see Beat Street. In fact, after the movie, we actually start battling in the lobby of the movie theater. They had to kick us out. Like there was a bunch of us, right? So it reignited this whole B-boy passion, for me personally, but also for the crew. And then I go back to the Bronx. The summer of 84 in the Bronx, I'm still practicing. I'm learning new skills. I'm still writing, though most of my writing was done in Rochester, and most of my b-boying was really done, my breaking was really done in Rochester. But in the summer of 84, I'm really practicing and getting into the craft. So after the summer of 84, back to Rochester, and now we start to get into battling. So again, we would frequent this place called Skate Town. Skate Town was like the local skating rink. Saturday nights was rap night. They didn't call it hip hop. They called it rap night. But at this point, not many people are skating. They're going there to hang out, to chill out, to see battles. You see ciphers. So we're in there battling, and just going in competitions against other crews and other individuals. But also Skate Town kind of died out, and then we ended up at USA. And USA was the place that really took off. This is where you saw MCs, this is where you saw B-boys, this is where you saw graffiti writers with their black books. It became a hip hop spot. The summer of 1985, I'm back in the Bronx. We're planning on leaving me there to live. That didn't happen. I moved from the Bronx, then I moved to the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and ended up having to leave, and eventually ended up in Rhode Island. That's another story for another time. But the summer of 85, I really stopped b-boying altogether, and I started to really hone my craft as an MC. And when I went back to Rochester, I started to MC with my man Pozo, and we got into a crew together. Pozo was the chapter leader of the Zulu division in Rochester. And then finally, when I moved to Rhode Island was the spot where I really took on the persona of an MC. You'll hear about that in the next hip hop conversation, my story as an MC. Grace and peace.